Good morning, as it is here in Germany, but it's good evening where David is because, or in fact, it's almost good night, I guess, David, because what time is it where you are?
It's like 9:40 in the evening, 9:40
Okay.
p.m.
Where
So
are
yeah,
you exactly, David? I should ask.
I'm in Canberra, Australia.
Okay. And
So
what are you doing there?
yeah. It's a challenger. It's a warm-up tournament for Australian Open qualifying, which is uh, starting on the 9th, so in just over a week's time. So yeah, so there are a number of lead-up tournaments. Um, Liam's chosen to play here rather than the United Cup because obviously with Cam and Evo, he wouldn't get to play any matches if he was part of the United Cup team, which would be fun uh, and definitely more money. But at the same time, he needs to get matches under his belt before qualifying. So that's
Yeah,
why we.
that's one of the sort of weaknesses, if you like, of a team competition is that you don't know how many, where you're going to participate. I guess he might get in on the doubles, but he might not get in on the singles there. So you're in Canberra anyway. How's it going? What's the current state of play regarding his schedule, etc.?
Well, he played today, first round qualifying. I mean, it's a very, very strong challenger. The main draw is about 154 in the world.
Okay.
Um, and Liam's ranking has dropped a bit because he took some time out after the US Open and then came back, made quarterfinals of Tel Aviv, obviously qualifying, made quarters of a tour event and had to pull out because of a stomach pull, so he was out
Yeah.
again. So the back part of the year, he wasn't able to play much at all, which affected his losing points in his ranking. So yeah, but I mean, for a challenger, it's very strong to have a sort of 150-ish cut. So he's seeded 3 in qualifying, so he was 3 out.
Okay. And how was the match?
Um, it was decent. I think he played Galliano, who he's actually lost to twice last year in Winnipeg and in Cleveland. Somebody who's very difficult to play, doesn't give you a lot of rhythm, takes the ball very early, hits it pretty flat, and first match of the year is always incredibly difficult. I mean, first match of any tournament is difficult, but the first match of the year, especially when you've had a pretty long off season like Liam's had, no matter how good you're feeling physically, it's and how much practice you've had, nothing is the same as a tournament match. So I'd say that Liam started a little bit tight, a little bit apprehensive. Got down a break, and luckily 5-4, the guy serving for it, Liam, was able to break back. And it was probably really the first match where I thought he relaxed and loosened up a bit. And then, won a really tight tiebreaker. I think it was 9-7 in the end, the tiebreaker.
Ooh, okay.
And once he got that under his belt, he relaxed, and the second set was, good quality.
Okay. So is he playing again tomorrow?
He is playing again tomorrow, yeah. So he's second on after 10, I think it is. So probably about 11:30.
What time was he on today? Was he on early in the morning, or what time did he play today?
No, he was third match on, so he played the match before went very, very long. So he only got on court about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
David, how is that mentally for a player? Because it's quite unique in tennis that you have no idea what time you're starting. Is it more nerve-wracking? Is it easier? What do you have a preference when Liam plays?
I mean, it's always nice to be first on because you know what time you're kicking off. But apart from that, I mean, it's always, sometimes you get a not before time, not often. Um, but I think he had a not before 12:30. But I mean, it was never going to be 12:30 anyway, unless somebody pulls out. So yeah, I think players do get used to it. I mean, with 3 set matches, it's a little bit a little bit difficult. I mean, when you get into the Grand Slams and it's 5-set matches, it can get very rough because you start getting into real problems about when to eat, and you get somebody who's 2 sets to love up, and then 3-all, you're warming up, getting ready to play, and then they lose that set, and then they could be 3-all again the next set, and so you could easily warm up three times before you, or 4 times even, if they have a long set in the 5th set going to like 10-all. So yeah, I mean, with a 3-set match like today, the match before went 7-6, 6-7. So he had to warm up towards the end of the 2nd set. Went the other way, so then he had a warm up again in the 3rd set. But players are pretty used to it. Obviously, they do it a lot. So it's
in terms of the food consumption, David, what happens? Do you just take a little bit constantly? I guess you can't really have a meal because you just don't know, or do you plan it? Do you have a meal and then see how it goes?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you definitely have a good meal, a few hours before the match, and then then it's you're gonna just snack, maybe have and if a match goes really long, might just have some a little bit of pasta just with tomato sauce or something like that, or just with olive oil. Not very big at all. So yeah, and then some Liam's quite good at just snacking on the court with bananas, eating a little bit all through the whole match, so that you don't get into that situation where you get hungry.
Sure.
But players are very, very different how much they eat.
Tell me about Liam's opponent tomorrow, David.
Don't know huge about him. I've just been watching on video. Italian, Pellegrino. Definitely more of a clay courter. Doesn't have a big serve, which is good. And plays fairly deep in the court. Moves very well, though. Obviously, going to make a lot of balls. But I think Liam's going to have to try and take the ball early and cut down his time, and hopefully get the job done.
What kind of communication do you have from the moment Liam wins, and of course you've therefore you've got to think about tomorrow and the next game and the next match as well? What is there anything specific you might do, or is there something, a routine that you would always have with Liam? Will you always talk about the next player, or not?
I wouldn't say the routine's set in stone because circumstances can change so much. How late you finish, how early you finish, whether you can get a practice court right after the match. So like today, we would have really liked to have just gone on and worked on a couple of things right after the match, but practice courts were absolutely chocker. There's a women's tournament at the same time here. So practice courts are a little bit at a premium. So, tomorrow he will have a slightly shorter warm up, and then we'll spend sort of 10 minutes working on something. As far as the match goes, I'll watch some video. Liam usually watches some video as well. Then, tomorrow morning, before he warms up for the match, we'll have a short chat about anything particular. I mean, certainly I think it's going to be a lot easier now because you're allowed to coach in matches. So one of the things you've always got to be careful of as a coach is not to give too much information, and also if your player hasn't actually played the person before, no matter what you see isn't all that relevant because you don't know how they're going to play against you. Being able to coach in a match, which has been in tour events as a trial, and they've extended it to challenges now. Certainly, as a coach, I feel in much more relaxed because you're able to get some clear messages across the player, not having to sneak around and try to get a message through or whatever. Which that's why I think it's a very sensible decision, because coaching has been going on for a long time. This is a very sensible thing. But for me, personally, it does feel much more relaxing because you don't have to give them too much messaging, and you can always change it up in the match.
Liam's opponent, Andrea Pellegrino, and that kicks off at, I think, just past midnight UK time, if, of course, things go to plan. But who knows? As we said before, in tennis, you just don't know. I'm not sure what time that is local time. Is that like 3:30, something like that?
No. It's going to be tomorrow's going to be earlier. I'd say.
Okay.
I think he'll play probably around about 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Okay, fine.
Alien time, so I have to work that out again on UK time.
The rankings are quite similar. I just had a quick look at Andrea's ranking, and he's about 180 odd. So they're quite similar in the ranking. So it should be a tense affair. Who's the top ranked player in this challenger?
I don't know. I'll have to actually just have a quick look if you.
Okay, no worries, no big deal. Listen, one final thing for us, David, is to talk about. It is New Year's Day. Have you? Do you have to, think about it? Does Liam go to bed before midnight? Do you have a drink? Do you do anything? Do you just basically say goodbye at 10 o'clock and see you in the morning? Just drink like any other day.
Yeah, the routine doesn't change because it's New Year's. I mean, I'd say Liam was asleep certainly by 10:30. I mean, I'd had the long trip in. I only arrived yesterday, sort of lunchtime, and then practiced in the afternoon and managed to stay awake till just before 10 o'clock. So I was well gone. I do remember waking up to go to the loo and hearing some of the fireworks, but then straight back to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean New Year's is not exotic at all on tour.
Got it. Have you ever known of players or certain individuals to get carried away? And then, I've heard one or two stories about one or two players that, not necessarily New Year's Eve, but even during tournaments, let's say getting a bit carried away. Have you ever become familiar or heard of such stories?
Oh, I mean, I've seen it in action. So, yeah. I mean, I'd say it's far less now. I think it'd actually be very rare now, but certainly in the years gone by, sometimes, especially on the main tour in the years gone by, people haven't played till the next evening or something like that. So they know they can have a good, line and that, and maybe went out a little late. There's some great stories of players in the past who've maybe yeah. But I mean, I think the margins are so small now, and everything's so professional now. I would say it'd be pretty rare.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, good luck in tomorrow's match, David. That brings us to an end for today's episode anyway, but we'll be catching up with you in a couple of days, and fingers crossed Liam's journey will be continuing.
I hope so.
Take care, everybody.